Hello, folks. Well, welcome to another exciting week of the Rec Poker Podcast. You know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune. This is a very typical episode because we're having all sorts of technical issues. I am proud to be our host, Jim Reid, Bluffsterini in the home game, and at Rec Poker Jim on the hellscape that we call Twitter. And we're having a fun time here. My camera is not working. My mic, I think, is working. We've got a great guest tonight, Jay Venom Carrafiello, and I can't wait to talk to him. But first, of course, I have to thank our sponsors, the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. I have to thank our premium members because most of what we do here is free. We're a largely volunteer-based organization, and so we really depend on the support of our premium members. We got a few new ones this week. Terry Coleman, Edward Parkinson, and Michael Robinson. So thank you to Terry, Edward, and Michael. Your $22 a month helps us a lot around here, and you're going to find a great amount of fun poker training and study and social activities as part of that. So this is getting off to a bit of a train wreck, but I just want to say I'm so grateful to be here. We've got a fantastic group. You might know them as the Wrecking Crew. I am just a small piece of the Rec Poker machine over here, thank God. And if you want to find out about me or the rest of the Wrecking Crew, you can go to rec.poker/crew, or you can just listen up because you can meet a few of them right here tonight on the show. And you can even see their faces, starting with producing co-host Chris Jones.
Well, I'm Chris Jones, and whether or not you can hear the tune or not, you're in for a treat tonight. And you can find me 5B5 on Twitter or 5x5 in the Poker Stars home game.
And I am John Somsky, also known as Poker Geek MN to everyone.
And I'm Rob Washam. You can find me as Rabman50 just about everywhere. And on the first and third Wednesdays of every month, you can find me hosting the book study.
Was I not sharing my audio either? Is that what you guys are making fun of me for? Oh my God. It just never ends here on the Rec Folk. Okay. Jay, all right, save me. We call him Jay Venom. Jay, I'm so excited to welcome you here to the show. Save us, for God's sake. Jay, you and I had a chance to meet up in Vegas several times. I've heard a lot of great things about you from Rob Gardner and a bunch of the other folks over at 100K. Let's just jump right in, my man. Thank you for joining us here on the Rec Poker Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was definitely a great time hanging out with you guys. I think some of those breaks that we had just discussing some of how the hands were going out there in that grueling summer was kind of exciting.
Yeah, you said it. Well, I don't need to tell you, there's no substitute for having other people around to talk poker with, right? Like that's the one thing. When new members join here as premium members, I usually meet up with them over Zoom, and the one thing that a lot of them have in common is I just don't have friends to talk poker with, and like talking about poker is one of the ways that you improve the most quickly and have the most fun doing it. Let's talk a little bit about that. So if our folks, well, here, as you can tell, this show has gone off the rails immediately, and I'm having trouble finding my way. But I like to start our interviews by asking our guests to kind of define their own role in the poker world. So don't let me put you in a box. What's your role in the poker world today?
Yeah, I would say for me, a lot of it is just the mentorship. There's so many players that I play with that are either amateur, some that have been around for a while as well. But like I'm kind of the sideline guy, to be honest. Like I'm always looking for opportunities to get more people into the game, take the game a little more seriously. Like I kind of look at my overall career and how I started. And I took probably a bigger leap than most. So for me, it's kind of like gradually getting them in, but also giving them that opportunity of looking forward and saying like, can I play this? Can I do this long term? Do I want to just play for fun? It's funny. I was listening to one of the podcasts where you guys were talking about the rec part of it, and so some of my partners here on teammates over at 100K, one of the items we talked about was like the rec game is just improving, right? So like rec players are no longer rec players. There's just a world of information out there, and I think for me, it's just encouraging folks. To enter the game, right? And you can play both sides of it. You can play professionally or you can play as an amateur, but just go and enjoy the game, right? Like that's the biggest part for me.
Yeah, good for you, man. That's fantastic. I wish more people had that same kind of attitude. Um, So tell us a little bit about so I mean you've been playing for a while. You're an accomplished player. You have this kind of love of the game that we all think is so important. Tell us a little bit about how your relationship with poker started.
Yeah, so I think as most careers probably started was that moneymaker boom. But when I
Hmm.
was younger, my godfather is the one who actually taught me how to play the game. We used to play for pennies and dimes
Yeah.
when I was younger because he used to play a weekend game all the time, and I was kind of into it. I like card games. Like growing up, I was also a blackjack guy. Don't play any more blackjack, by the way,
Yeah, that's
ever.
wise. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a different type of gamble.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so and then once I got into it, it was kind of the home games. I won my first home tournament, so of course I think everybody gets that beginner's luck, and then you just think you're great at the game until you start like going into venues and just getting absolutely wrecked.
Yeah.
Uh, and for me, I took a bigger leap like once I started playing. Very heavy cash player. I wasn't really a big MTT guy once I really got into it. Um, I used to play a game that was a 25-50 PLO game.
Mm.
Pretty swingy game. It was a lawyer game, so it was exciting,
Got it.
to say the least. Um, and then I just kind of like I still play a lot of cash, but I kind of ventured into MTTs on and off over the years. I played a lot online as well, a lot of sit and go, like 45 band sit and goes. That was kind of my specialty in heads up. I played heads up for about a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty. It's a different game,
Hmm.
but I think long term as an MTT player, like it really helped me out. Um, but I've really like turned up my volume in the last, I would say, year for live, just because the live arena is what I consider to be a little softer.
Hmm. Hmm.
Online is tough. Like
Hmm.
it's really tough depending on what site you're playing on. But I've put so much study in, especially with having my crew around. So but yeah, I mean, for the most part, like cash is what really got me into it. I kind of went off the deep end and went pretty big early. Learned my lesson there. I don't play too much PLO now.
Yeah.
uh, I'm a no limit guy now. So
Nice. Well, so I've got a bunch of questions for you already, and I know our Wrecking Crew members will as well. I'll just say to the folks in the YouTube chat, if you've got any questions for Jay, just type them in the chat there, and I'll make sure that we ask them while we've got him here. And also enter some names in the chat for a stake study stack, which we'll be playing with Jay a little later on. And of course, if you're new to the show, stick around till the end of the interview. We're going to give away a prize in a raffle here to support a local food bank, and it's totally free to enter. Just stick around for that. And finally, if anybody wants to make any donations to Rec Poker through YouTube with a super chat or a super sticky or a super comment or anything like that, we'd appreciate that. And we share a portion of all our YouTube donations with a local food bank as well. So even though you're hanging out in the YouTube chat, you still can make a difference in the world, and you can have some fun, and you can inform the show here with some of your questions and comments and thoughts. So dive right in. So Jay, we talk a lot on the show and in our membership about diversifying your play a little bit. I think as a student, you really want to be kind of studying one variation of poker mostly so that you can see your biggest gains in that area. But when it comes to your bankroll, I mean, being an MTT pro, that variance is going to kick your butt. I don't care how good a player you are. And so bringing some cash games into it, bringing in some sit and go smaller field tournaments into it. That just seems like a smart way to cover your bases a little bit. Do you find that there's much of sort of a mental shift when you're moving from playing in tournaments to playing cash games?
oh yeah, for sure. A lot of like when you're playing cash, everything's primarily value. Like for me, I tend to play a lot tighter when it comes to cash. Like you can sit down in Texas. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you've heard, but Texas cash games are pretty enlightening. They play big.
Yeah.
But they also tend to give it away sometimes. So, like from a mental perspective, you're not thinking of like, what levels am I at? Do I need to tighten up? Do I need to get aggressive here? You can kind of just play straightforward, in my opinion, and you just look for your value spots, and you just attack it max value. Or versus MTTs, just shifting that gear of just knowing like you have to be the guy with all the chips, or lady with all the chips, right, in the end. So I think where you have to make that shift really depends on where you're putting all of your volume. I tell a lot of folks that I speak with that have conversations with me about what I prefer. I enjoy MTTs. Cash games, again, is where I kind of got my, cut in my roots. But I think just the mindset of the overall MTT and everything that comes into it is very, very, very intriguing to me. And just being able to sit through and navigate fields, understanding where stack sizes are. I wouldn't encourage anyone personally to like try to have the same approach from a strategy perspective, right? Like cash is so very different. And I tend to see that a lot in MTTs, especially here locally, in the Dallas area, where they leave a cash game, they late reg, and they just play the tournament like it's cash. And I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. It's a totally different mindset.
And you talked about, and let's explore that a little bit. So you talked sort of about like playing tighter in cash games, and the interest of tournaments where the situation's always changing, and you kind of have to keep adapting to different dynamics at the table. Let's just take a couple examples, like opening ranges. So you're just saying, like, when you're playing cash games, you're going to be opening a tighter range of hands, like from every position. You're just going to be taking stronger hands to the flop. Is that because the games are raked? Is that because you don't want to get into like a second best hand with a deep stack behind you? Kind of talk a little bit about that adjustment.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, when it comes to rate games, it really depends. Like here in Texas, we do the hourly,
Right.
or then like you go right up to Choctaw, an hour and a half away, and it's just a purely rate game. We have some back and forth about which one is better, where we should tighten up. For me, I think, again, there's spots in tournament ranges where you're just going to be a lot wider in like early positions, where in cash games, I can pass on those spots, right? Because there's just so many other spots, right, that you could play in position, and maybe open up some, but the reality is, like, your earlier position spots are just going to be a lot tighter. And again, like, to your point, like, we have the ability to wait, right? It's not like, blinds are going to change in the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, I like that. So tell us a little bit about your journey as a player. So I was like you. I grew up as a kid playing with family games and for pennies and matchsticks and that kind of thing. But you can't take that game out into the casinos and plan to profit. So you said you had kind of like some rude awakenings playing in the brick and mortar places for real. So we all kind of get better just by burning our hand on the stove and learning not to do certain things. But to get to your level, you must have had a course of study, some study buddies, videos. What were the main ways that you improved as a player, methodically and intentionally?
Yeah, I would say early on, a lot of it for me, like, I would literally, and this is not a joke, I would go on full tilt and I wouldn't even play. Like, you could go in, watch tables. And I literally would just like try to do reads by bet sizing and things of that nature. I was doing that back. I literally did that for like a year, where I wasn't even really playing. I was kind of on a downswing anyway. But I went in and was like, this is a part of the game that I'm going to need to understand. So I did a lot of that. And I can tell you, throughout most of my career, a lot of it was just me on my own, and never really saw any level of success that I felt was successful for me, right? I was never someone who just said like, hey, I got to get to the high roller levels. Like the 10K main was like a dream, but at the same time, it wasn't something that I was like, this is something I have to do. So like going through all of that literally was just like my own personal journey. I had a few friends that I played with, along the way, and I played the circuit a lot on the East Coast. And guys that were like crushing the game back then, and even like Dwight Pilgrim. I don't know if you remember him. I used to play a lot with him. Michael Dintali. I've been quite a few events with him on the East Coast.
Yep.
And like you watch these guys like when you're in these events, you kind of don't really know what separates them, right? Until I would probably say about a good 5 years ago, when like I didn't even really know what studying was. I didn't know like what solvers were, things of that nature. I have my own opinions on the solver piece personally, but it like going through those steps of like, watching videos and just like watching some of the live streams, especially when it switched over from just being like a, CBS broadcast to where you get the full 6 hours of streams. Really, really like enlightened me to a lot of spots of things that I should be doing. And then once I finally had a team that I partnered with, like that was a game changer for me. Just because like you could take in all the study you want, you can do this on your own, but I can tell you like there's not a single, I don't even think like even elite players, nobody's went out there, sat in a room and just studied solvers without and like go crush the game, right? Without actually having someone else to lean hands on, drop a hand in, get some feedback on a hand. You don't really get that when you're just, you're sitting in the lab just by yourself, right? So I think where, at least for me, that team or community aspect is really what takes you to the next level. Like you can be as studied as you want, but if you don't have folks to lean on and hold you accountable too, I think that was the biggest piece, like accountability, right? Spots that I just like was so strong-headed about. I had a very strong opinion. Now I have 8, 9 people firing back 4 different ways, right, for me to approach a spot. To where now it's funny because we talk about this with Craig and Rob is I'm usually the one now just giving like this alternative way to play a hand, right?
I love it. Well, I know Chris has a couple questions, but I want to just jump in and take that great segue. So, like a lot of our listeners are recreational players. Maybe they play online, maybe they play in their local card room, daily tournaments or something like that. How do you find a crew? How do you find a team? Like how were you able to connect with people and sort of like get this opportunity to share thoughts and hands with people?
Yeah, networking. I think one of the most important things is when a lot of players they play. I see so many players that get to a table, they don't talk. Everybody wants to be this robot, but then you have the other side of that where they're extreme extroverts. They're chatty at the table, and for me, I just take advantage of that. I think that those are some of like the best opportunities. I tend to like look at certain players that maybe somebody else has like a coaching patch on, or someone who I can watch and see like, hey, this player looks pretty studied, just watching some of the things that they did. And then on breaks, just like go have a conversation, introduce myself. I think like in this world of, we talk about this quite a bit, is there's kind of like this negative side of poker, and like I don't entertain that, and the folks that I'm around don't entertain that. So like we just look at the positive side, right? And like once we kind of get ourselves in front of folks, like that's the opportunity. Like you have to network, you have to get to know people, understand their backgrounds, and they just may know. So I've bumped into players that are great friends with players that all they do is they're playing 1K, 2K cash games. And I'm intrigued, in having those conversations because the thought process is so different. But I think that that's where it starts. You have to get out. You have to be able to have the ability to just talk to people, right? Like don't just sit there, stay silent. You see someone who looks like a good player, just go have a conversation, and you'll be pretty surprised on who they know or what they know, or they'll bring you into like a Discord group or just a regular study group.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. Like it took me a while to get used to making myself vulnerable to other people and like opening myself up to them and like creating an opportunity to get rejected You know, like we kind of make this stuff into more in our minds than it needs to be, but you do have to put yourself out there, and you have to kind of um make yourself vulnerable to get that kind of help. But that sounds really good. Okay, Chris,
Absolutely.
you had some YouTube questions in there, I think.
Yeah, a couple of questions from YouTube. Jay, one of the things I'm gathering from the YouTube, because Jay, I don't know your game very well. We've never played with
Uh-huh.
each other, but I'm gathering that you might have a lot of sense of sort of live reads, live tells. Because a couple of questions come in. Craig talked about how much do you rely on live reads? Do you use your personality, likability to your advantage at the table? And Mike Day asks a sort of a similar question: is like when you're at the table, can you read someone based on what they say? If so, what's the best way to do that? So I'm just kind of curious about maybe you can kind of package this together and just talk about your approach to sort of reading your table and what kind of things you're looking for, whether that's through speech or action or motion or whatever, and like how much of that helps you make decisions about the kind of play you engage in.
Yeah. Those are great questions. I typically, for me, it's a mix of everything, and I think a lot of it is one, table dynamics change quite a bit, especially early on in tournaments, because you get moved from table to table, or you have late regs and they're breaking up tables. But um, for me, it always starts with how players are moving chips into the pot is a really big read for me. There's players who just like to splash chips when they're bluffing, but that same player will nicely stack a 25K worth of, single yellows, right? And slide them in. There's reads where, depending on how strong they are, if you can pick up on it, like it is so crucial for you. I tell everyone who asks me about reads, because this is one of the things that everyone usually typically just pats me on the back for, is my ability to kind of read some folks at the table. And it's because I'm never distracted. So when I'm not in hands, I'm constantly looking for showdowns, try to see what they turn over. But you'll see a lot of times where players will slide a stack. They'll slide their bet in. It'll be just over the betting line, or they push it out a little bit further towards the pot. Or they'll bet towards you. That's an interesting one that I tend to see a lot, where they just take their stack and they'll make a bet and they'll like throw the chips in your direction, right? A lot of times it's a bluff. Like I can't tell you how many times they've done that, and it's a pure bluff, right? It's kind of like this, just go away. But it is like, for me, it's a lot to rely on when it comes to live poker, just because there's just so many reads out there. The standard, as soon as the board comes, you immediately keep your eye on opponent. I tend to stare down a lot, and it's just because I just want to see what their eyes are doing. Do they immediately look down at their chips? That's really a big one. And I know you probably hear a lot of players talk about that. It's probably the easiest one to pick up. As soon as they look down at their chips, it means they're probably interested in putting chips in. And I can say, like, combining all of those, it is exhausting when you're out, doing a 12, 13-hour session. But I think like you have to have the ability to do these things. Folks chatting, that could be a lot. Like, yeah, there's some tells. I typically just look for, there's so many folks that probably should wear a scarf or wear a hoodie up, because their juggler is just beating 1,000 miles an hour. And I got a new read on, actually, I've watched a lot of players. If you actually look at their wrist, you actually will see it pulse in spots too, if you're paying attention. And I would say, like, one other good one is sometimes they won't lock their smartwatches. So they'll have their heart monitor on there, and you literally can just see it increase. Now, at this point, we don't know whether it's a big hand or a bluff, but I'm just waiting for showdowns again, and it'll tell me a lot, and I just look for the same spot again.
I love that. I just got to add to that. There was a hand I played actually just yesterday, and the guy had like one of those iPhone iWatch, I forget what they're called,
Right.
but it was like giving him alerts about his heart rate and whatever.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God. It's like the
Yeah.
whole room can see this thing giving this big red flashing alert. So
Right. Yep. So yeah, I think just in general, like, live reads are big. I rely on them a lot playing live. Betting tells are there. But I would say that they're probably a little harder to pick off. in regards to whether or not, it's a bluff. But I think, again, the most important part whenever you're playing live is you can have zero distractions. Even my team will tell you, if they send me a message while I'm in the middle of a tournament, I typically don't respond until I go on break.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that. I'm having a hard time because I grew up playing online mostly. Most of my volume's been online. And so when I play live, the pace of play is so slow, and I find I have a lot of opportunities to get bored or distracted, or to pull out the phone, and I'm probably more active on Twitter than I should be while I'm playing too. But was this something that you were naturally good at, focusing and concentrating, or in other parts of your life as well, or did you have to kind of learn to do this at the poker table?
I kind of have a little bit of it. Everyone who has known me for most of my life knows I'm a pretty good read. I'm an observer. It's funny because like we met out there, Jim, and I immediately we get to talk, and I'm an extrovert, hands down, outgoing guy. I like people, but I'm also very quiet and I observe a lot. And that has always been who I am. Like my family always tells me, they're like, he's watching everything, nothing gets by. But I think actually, adopting that in poker was something that I honestly never even thought to do, to be honest. Like it's as crazy as it sounds. Until I finally started realizing, like, maybe I should be paying attention here, right? Because I already kind of have those observations, right? It's just kind of built into me. And like when I started actually applying it, it was a game changer.
And so a lot of that, you're mentally making notes on players. You're kind of trusting your memory in the short term to make exploits against these players that you're currently playing against. When it comes to like taking notes for future study, or taking notes on hands or something like that, what's your mechanism for that while still paying attention to what's going on at the table?
I have this rare photogenic memory, and it's pretty hilarious because Craig always says, like, we go back and forth, and he's like, you don't have to worry about Jay, he remembers the hand that he played 2 years ago. So I kind of naturally just have the ability to just like remember a hand. I can tell you what the blind levels were, how the betting was, how they bet. And then on breaks, I kind of will take the note. I think for folks that don't have that, and I was just talking again to another teammate about where I felt like I could get better in taking notes real time. For me personally, the issue is I don't want to take the notes and then miss action at the table. So you have to get really good at shorthanded. And if anybody who's playing right now doesn't have the poker keyboard downloaded as an app, I would highly suggest that you do that, because you can do all the short keys just utilizing that app. It makes it fast. You can save the notes, or drop it in a Discord or something of that nature. But definitely, I would have that app in place.
Yeah, that's a good one. We've pushed that before on the show. It does makes a big difference. Chris Jones, what's on your mind?
Another question from YouTube. We've got Hubert asking, and this may be because you've played, you've had success in both cash and MTTs. Hubert asks, for a rec player, particularly maybe a more, early on rec player who wants to get better, do you recommend learning cash and MTTs at the same time, or focus on one or the other? What would you recommend as sort of like a first point of study for a player who maybe wants to take the game more seriously?
Yeah, I think, again, it typically comes down to bankroll. But you have access to some pretty low stakes, right, for both MTT and cash. So I do not advise attempting to learn both at the same time. Again, the mindset, the thought process that goes into cash and MTTs are very different. Me personally, I think that if you have the ability, I mean, even if you're just throwing 25, $50 on, and you can find yourself some, $1.50 buy-in MTTs, I think that allows you to kind of take everything that you learn or as you're learning, implement it into the game, and you kind of avoid the risk of ruin, right? And like in cash, like that's just, it's there. Like the risk of ruin is always there, even if it's, I'm going to put $25 up, but like you get in a big spot, and even if you're playing, 1 cent, 2 cent, like you could lose it all. I definitely advise, like, if you can go the MTT route, and then just focus on the MTT. Again, you can. It's easy for you to like switch over to cash games and get the study in there. I would definitely like. You don't necessarily have to like focus on like courses and things of that nature. There's more than enough information out there. You can kind of get just like basic level GTO wizard, and you just want to understand your ranges. You don't, especially just starting out, you don't need to like go into all of these 3, 4 bet, 5 bet spots. Like you're just looking to see, what are my ranges, where should I be playing them from, and then you kind of grow your way into the exploits, right? That's kind of like where I live now, is it's just looking for the exploits, right? Like why is the solver saying this, and when I find out what it is, then it's like, okay, well, where's the exploit, right, in this part of the tree. But definitely just starting out, I would start like MTTs if you have the ability to do it, because you can literally put some practice in and not go broke.
Yeah. We do some database review work with our members through our coaching program here at RecPoker. And so I look at a lot of databases, and I'm always struck at when I show members the facing preflop action filter on Poker Tracker 4. Usually like between 2/3 and 3/4 of the hands that you're going to play are hands that are either folded to you or there's one raise in front of you. Right. So knowing your opening ranges and knowing your calling and 3-betting ranges versus various positions they're going to come up in like almost every hand you play, you play. And of course it's good to, like you say, it's good to know 4-betting and 5-betting. It's good to know, what combos to check raise on a monotone turn. But those spots just come up so infrequently compared to having solid pre-flop ranges. And it's like, I think a lot of recreational players feel like it's kind of like, oh, it's ranges, I get it. I want to work on the sexier stuff of poker. What worked for you to help you kind of just like nail that stuff? Like, did you have to make yourself study charts and graphs and visualize things? Was it repetition? Was it getting burned too many times with having the wrong combo? Like, what was it for you that helped?
Yeah, a lot of it. One is just experience. I think, when you touch the stove, and there's just things that you're just never going to go back to, right? Or you're going to go back and say like, well, why was this wrong? Was this really a mistake? And as you stated, like everything is pre-flop. Like you make the right decisions pre-flop, it just makes it a lot easier. There's too many times that we make a bad pre-flop decision and then it just combats by post-flop mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. When the reality was, it's like, probably should have just folded pre. But for me, a lot of it was taking those spots and then like trying to plug in from a solver perspective as well, of like where I can get away with certain things. And I will tell you, the simplest way, and I've shared this a lot, is Matt Affleck did a video with Jonathan Little, and literally just went through like the best way to kind of like memorize, right, your pre-flop ranges, starting from the button back. And I can tell you, like, I did that. I probably watched that video like 10 times before I would rather even study like the chart, right? And then I was able to actually keep it in my head a lot better doing that than actually like staring at charts all day long. That was for me personally, though.
Yeah, well, I love that, because I mean, different people learn differently. And so like we've worked with a lot of Matt Affleck and Jonathan Little stuff here with our Learning with Partners program. Like, it's one of the great things we get little samples of training videos from all the great sites out there. And so we get to sort of see how different pros work on the same spots, how different coaches teach their students to analyze these kind of things. And there's so many different ways to learn and different ways to teach. And you can't just, charts aren't for everybody, but I like that. Whatever gets it in your brain, right? We've got a question here from another one from Mike Day, actually. specifically for MTTs. So I really liked what you were saying about player reads and that sort of thing. He says, how do you know when to change gears when playing live MTT? And I'm not sure if they're referring to sort of like different tournament stages or different table dynamics, but how would you answer that?
Yeah, I think, and I've actually been working on this myself, is understanding your framework of MTTs, like how you're going to approach it by stages. And we actually had a big conversation. Me and Mika Richards were talking about how in certain venues, right, it's technology. So like locally here, a lot of the rooms they utilize the board right at the table. So when somebody busts, we already know how many are left. But then you can go to like WSOP, right, and you're in an event that has 8,000 people, you know what I mean? Or you're like on a day one and there's 2,500, and it takes them forever to update how many runners are left. And I think you just kind of naturally have to get an understanding of like where we are from like a blind perspective, and kind of you can get an idea of like what the structure is. I think in regards to changing gears, for me, a lot of it is just purely stack depth, except for like bubble situations, right? Like if we have the opportunity, like we just have to be aggressive. And trust me, there's been spots where I've slowed down on the bubble. I'm short and I'm just looking for spots. My edge is I do extremely well with a short stack. So,
Nice.
And it's probably because I've been forced into that situation way too many times. But yeah, like, understanding your spots to take, and understanding the dynamics is the biggest part. How many people at the table are just looking to cash? And if those folks are just looking to cash, and a lot of that comes in conversation, or you can just see how they're playing, they've tightened up. And then it's time for you to kind of kick it up a gear and steal as many blinds as you can, right? So that's kind of the approach that I personally take.
Nice. I love it. I'm going to take off. You mentioned that you had some thoughts on the current sort of solver craze. I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that a little bit. Share those thoughts with us, Jay.
Yeah, I'm pretty open about this, and I have a lot of peers that laugh when I make these jokes. Like I'll get a text message, and it'll be a spot, and then it'll be a snip followed by that, right, of like what Wizard is saying. And my immediate response is like, the hell with GTO in this spot. Like it's because the reality is most folks aren't even playing close to that, right?
Right.
A lot of the fields that we're playing in, at least for me, because I have very specific games that I'm approaching right now, just because I'm already thinking of next year. But like, they're not playing anywhere near that, right? And it's just the baseline, right? And like, yes, you should know the baseline. But there's just so many spots that I just feel like most folks use the solver, they don't use it correctly. Like there's spots where I get hands and my response is like, oh, okay, did you node lock it? Right. It's like, well, no, this is just the basic standard. It's like, well, then it's pointless because you're playing in a game that like people they don't bet when you check out of position, right? Like it goes check. So like if you plug that in, you node lock it. Well, now it's going to probably tell you that we should be betting out of position more frequently now, right? Like our frequency increases there. So like that's my only like real gripe with it. Now, do I use it? Absolutely. Do we do it in study sessions? Absolutely. And again, a lot of it is just kind of narrowing down an understanding of what the baseline GTO is saying and how do we find the exploits. But if you're not node locking based off of particular games that you're playing, then everything that's given to you, like you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. Right? You're going to pass up on spots like being out of position that you actually should just taking down right now.
Yeah. And I think, like you say, no one's playing GTO out there. So, you're leaving money on the table if you're not trying to exploit the mistakes that they're making. So, yeah, I love that. That's a great point. There's a couple questions in here from Benny the Jet. He's asking, do you recommend ICMizer for short stack study, or is there a better tool to practice short stack play?
Yeah, I think ICMizer is fine. Again, it was funny one day. I just randomly, just literally just laying on the couch, and I jumped in one of our Discord channels, and I was like, "Hey, did Jennifer just get shredded, or is it just implemented into Wizard now?" And I know everybody remembers like the Jennifer charts, your push fold spots. But yeah, I think ICMizer is fine. Like the wizard is going to give you some spots again that like it's going to tell you what you should be doing that's plus EV. And then of course now, ICM wise, but I think where for me, a lot of it has just literally been trial and error, to be honest.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I've been burnt so many times just adhering to the chart, and it just never worked out for me. And maybe that's just a variance thing, right? But I think for me, a lot of it was just like trying in these spots, like what size stacks can I shove here that people are just never willing to call off unless they're at the top 8%, right?
Right.
So yeah, ICMizer is fine.
Now, we talked earlier about, you've got that love of poker, but, life, there's more to life than poker. We've got a great question here from MCAT. It says, what do you uniquely do to balance between family time and like personal time and grinding to become a successful poker player?
So I've sacrificed a lot. I will tell you, for me personally, my family is a very big supporter. Like Saturday's event, just family members, I think I had like 35, 40 of them
watching. Wow.
Yeah, like even at my house, like at the house, my wife had it up on the TV screen in the living room, and my daughter and her friends, they were all here. People that are out of state, my family that's back in Connecticut, Virginia. It's like I get a lot of support. I can tell you, like, whenever I do have the down times, I take advantage. I'm at a stage in my life where it's kind of like I worked really hard prior to here. I've left poker a few times. I've came back, and it was just kind of one of those. If I had to choose one or the other, it's always going to be my family, right? So I could walk away from the game tomorrow. If my family came to me and said, "Hey, like, it's taking up too much time," I would walk away, and they know that. But I think just understanding your schedule, making sure that you have a pretty clear schedule, right, is the key part. Know the events, know that you can schedule family things or time in between all of that. Is something that like I personally would recommend. Like it's the best way to do it, and just unplug. I haven't unplugged since I left Vegas, honestly. So it's been pretty grueling for me. But I also made my family aware of that. Like, I'm going to go hard for the second half of the year.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And I mean, you've got a lot of great poker in Texas, no doubt about that. But I know you also travel around and play where the games are good. And how do you sort of choose where to go and when? And I guess you're going to say it's just a question of good planning and knowing what the alternatives are and sort of locking in the big family stuff and working around it. But tell us.
Yeah. If there's events that are local, say example, I was supposed to play the Monster down at the Lodge. It was a $400 buy-in. Granted, up top is great. It's a 3-hour drive there, so in 3 hours back. And I just didn't have it in me to like travel. But the reality is I still had a same buy-in level, maybe not the bigger prize up top. But like, as long as I know that there's some decent events locally, then I have zero desire to travel. And then if there's bigger events, like example, even like Vegas, like going to Vegas, we talked about this. I probably could hang around for the summer and not even go to Vegas because there's so many events in Texas. But right. Like, but the problem is again, there are some personal goals that I have, right? Like, I want to take down a bracelet. It doesn't have to be 15, just one.
Yeah.
And some trophy hunting. But I think like just understanding like where the value is, where some of the tournaments are softer, Again, like you can go to run good events and at the buy-in levels, right? Like there's going to be some good players on that circuit. But at the same time, like I can do that and not have to have such a high expense because the buy-ins are lower. Right, where you could play some other events. I go there and you're spending 8K for one trip.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So let's talk about that a little bit. What are your, so you talked about like some goals. I want to get into your head. So you've been a profitable player for a long time. You've kind of reached this place in the poker world. So one goal, I guess, would be to win a bracelet. What other goals do you have? How do you measure your success as a poker player?
Oddly enough, like the more people that I can meet along the way and they can look back and say like, hey, I had a conversation with Venom and like he's the guy who got me into the game. I respect him a lot. Like honestly, like that's probably one of my first main goals. And like you kind of, I mean, I can do it locally, right? But like you still got to kind of get out there and you want to be able to touch people, across the country. I think my second one is I don't have any trophies because again, I was more of a cash player than anything else. I don't need to be a high roller player, right? But I just want to know that I can compete in some of the biggest games.
Yes.
So like in the summer, it was really big for me to play in these games that 5 betting and 6 betting is part of it.
Right. Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I haven't seen a 4 bet like that was light locally. I don't think in 2 years here locally, right? A 4 bet is always aces or kings. It's just what it is. Where like out there, it's very different, right? Like you're gonna face those. And I, for me personally, just want to know that I'm able to compete, right? We laugh all the time, like here locally, some of the Texas all-time money lists are, the Doyles and other folks that are from out here, one way or another. And I'm like, man, like I'm not going to see the top of that. It's millions, and I'd be okay with that, right? But as long as I know that I have the ability to compete, and that I'm working hard enough to say like I can play in these games, that's probably what's like second most important to me.
Nice. I like that. Well, let's pivot to this past weekend. You had a pretty fantastic score down in the Texas Card House. So tell us a little bit about, is this a typical tournament for you? What was it like, advancing through it? And spoiler alert, you did pretty well. Let the audience know kind of how the whole thing went together.
Yeah. We so this tournament runs every week. It's actually a pretty well structured tournament. They just increased. It used to be a 365 30K starting stack. It was increased to a 440K starting stack, 30-minute levels. And it's funny because I always tell my peers over with the 100K pros, like we kind of like that's my wheelhouse. I'll play these games like everybody hates these 20-minute levels. I'm like, man, let me tell you, like it's my wheelhouse. But this one, like we come in, it's a lot of regs for the most part. So there's a lot of players like they understand how each other play. I haven't been playing it for a while, so and I've been working on my game in between this time, right? So what they always see one week, they don't see the second week.
Nice.
And it's one of those tournaments, and I learned this a lot from Justin Arnwine too. Again, like just great having a community around you, right? Is like he crushes that local game there. He's a favorite every time he steps in that casino. One of the things I learned was like understanding structures, right, and understanding like what your current pool is willing to do and not willing to do. So I've implemented a lot of that locally. But I think for early on, I took a spot. I'm always willing to fire 2 bullets. Just so we're clear, it's 2 bullets. It'll never be more than that.
Okay, that's a hard line. Just 2 every time.
Hard line for me there. I won't in that event. I'll fire 2 bullets. That's it. because there's other games that I can jump in my truck and go drive to later on in the day, you know.
Oh, you lucky bastard. God, I'm so jealous right now. That's fantastic. All right, yes, continue.
Yeah, so I took a spot pretty early. The guy had just enough chips where I flopped a flush draw, bottom pair, and an over, and like he limp called queens. I literally was just going for a dead bunny spot. Yeah, he just limp called queens, which was amazing. And then like we just get this flop, and I just like induce him to just spaz out, and he just spazzed out. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go for it here, because it was my first bullet. So
nice.
And we had a pretty good double up there. Then it was just kind of a grind up and down. I can tell you, I got fairly short close to the bubble. And again, I'm a short stack player, so I knew what spots to take. I had two big spots prior to the bubble that I over jammed the flop with a set. I just over jammed it because I knew like these players just can't help themselves; they have to call. And I got called off. Got a big double there.
Oh, amazing!
And yeah, it was great. It was perfect. But then when we got down, we got in the bubbles. I think it was paying 22 and 23. 22 places. So we get past the bubble, and I knew then like I just needed to navigate, find my spots, look for where people were just tightening up because they just want to go deeper. And then I got in a really good spot with like 12, 11 left to a guy who had me just barely covered. I opened up deuces on the button. He called in the big blind. When I saw the hand, I was kind of surprised that he just flatted. I think we were about 25 effective, 28 effective. Okay. And I have deuces, flop comes, deuce, ace, king, two hearts. I opted to go like half pot here just because I was like, his calling range is all aces. So I'm either just going to get flatted here. He's going to check raise. He just called. The turn is a deuce. So we hit quads. I tank, he checks, I tank forever. And I check back. So at this point, I was pretty sure that he figured I'm just weak here. And I was just looking for a bluff spot. River card comes with jack, and he open jams. And we snap off. I had him covered, but only by like 50K, and I had him covered. And that put me in a really good spot. And then we get to the final table. We were short. We were second in chips. And again, you put me in a short stack spot, like I'm typically going to find my way out of it. Like it's going to have to be a pretty tough cooler, but we doubled up a few times. I kind of think there were some pretty loose calls, but whatever. I mean, their hands to play. Then when we got down to like 4-handed, 5-handed, I had a gentleman on my left, and I was laughing. His name's Albert, and he's 85. Okay. Let me tell you. This guy put on a clinic. Jim, I tell you, he put on a clinic. He put on a clinic. And I kind of knew it, you know. Literally, when I was done, I ended up texting like Craig and Rob, and I was like, man, I know this guy was working me. So we ended up getting 3-handed. I had one of the locals. He was great. He's a tough player. This was actually, he won this event last week. He's had four final tables in the last 5 events. I ended up knocking him out. I was tired of him jamming on me, so I called off. Because I knew he was jamming light. I just needed to find the right spot. So we got 3-handed, but my man Albert looked like he was getting kind of tired. So you know, he said, "Hey, you want to chop it up?" I was second in chips. I didn't mind. You know, I said, "Hey, I'm more than willing to take the chop." Like honestly, kudos to him at 12, 13 hours of just grinding there. And he didn't let up, you know, but I could see he was pretty tired. So yeah, it was pretty nice. 11K score. So
sweet.
Wasn't too upset.
No, that's amazing. And it sounds like you really got to use some of those live read chops and exploit, you know, some of the reads you were seeing at the table. Is there a better feeling than tagging someone as a calling station and then over jamming with the set and then having them call? Like, is there a better feeling out there?
There is no better feeling than being able to peg them at a spot and say he's never or she's never folding. like, and just go for it. Like when your read is spot on, you just know it. Like you feel good about it. And I can tell you, like through that event, again, having a team has been huge. Like just coming on board with Rob was a game changer for me. Like Rob, like we used to play, we'd be online and we'd be in streams. And then we played a live stream together, and then he kind of hit me back up later on, and I kind of saw what he was doing from the 100K piece. And I can tell you, like, I was like, hey, I just wanted to be a part, so I was in there, the rest of the community grinding, going away, and still grinding live. And just like having the community was great, because like everyone in the community just made me better, because I was talking through hands, right? I was talking through spots, or they'd reach out, ask me advice, or but I can tell you, like, in the biggest key, and I say this like just from the community perspective, is going into the final table this weekend. I called my wife first. And
that's awesome,
because she's like probably my biggest fan. But then I called Rob. And I'll tell you exactly why I called Rob. Craig was messaging me back and forth, but I called Rob because I had a hand that I know I got bluffed on with 10 left, right before the bubble, right before the final table bubble. And I knew if I went into that final table and I was still thinking about this hand, I was ruined, right? Like I was just going to carry it with me. So the great part of just having, a team around you is, I mean, it's 11 o'clock at night. It's probably midnight over there where Rob is. And like, I call him and he immediately answers, and I said, I need to tell you about this hand. And we talked through the hand. And I was able to, like, I just never thought about the hand again. Right.
Nice.
Going into the final table. So like, I'm telling you, anyone who's not part of the community, you're going to be behind the curve, regardless of how much effort you put in.
Yeah, I love it. And it's been great. So, the 100K Studios group recently joined RecPoker, and a lot of their members have become RecPoker members, and a lot of their pros and coaches are getting involved here and joining the RECing Crew and that kind of thing. And it's just, it's so great. You love to see these passionate people sharing their love of poker with each other. And, iron sharpens iron. It's a lot easier to get better together than it is to get better alone. So I love to hear it. Jay, I feel like we could talk to you all night. I can't believe we're already coming up on an hour here. I'll give one more chance to the YouTube chatters. If you want to ask a quick question for Jay, type it in there quick. We're going to let him go soon. We're also going to do our stake study stack and close the action with our speed round. But first, when we get an experienced player like yourself on the show here, we like to ask about a certain code word that may or may not be used in various regions of the country. So, Jay, you're a cash player. Every once in a while, you're playing in a room where they have a promotion for a high hand or a bad beat. Now, normally, everyone folds around to the small blind, and you're going to chop the blinds or you're not going to chop the blinds. I'll leave that to you. But every once in a while, it's going to fold around to you in the small blind, and you're going to have the kind of hand that might make a high hand promotion or a bad beat jackpot. So you don't want to chop, and you don't want the big blind to fold. But you can't just say, hey, I've got a good hand for the promotion. Let's play this hand out, or else they'll invalidate the hand. Have you ever heard of a code word that you can sort of just like say to the person to your left that indicates that you want to see this hand to the river? Have you ever heard of that? And if so, what is the code word that you have heard? Please rack your brain.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Have I ever heard anybody actually use a code word? Yeah, I don't know if there's a code word out there. I mean, typically it just goes like, I want to play this. It's usually like, it's just how it goes. There's no like fancy, or the chips just go in the middle, and that's literally where it's like, I call, for $1. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not a thing in a 2-5 game. It doesn't matter, because like they're just playing hands. So
all right. So Jay says no code word, but if you're in the YouTube chat, MCAT says that there is a code word in Cleveland. And Chris Jones, would you like to unmute and share with our audience what the code word in Cleveland is according to MCAT?
I mean, so there's like one casino in Cleveland apparently where you've played, and like there's this one little regional thing, but most people have never heard the word cheeseburger as the code word for let's play this hand and try to hit the jackpot.
It's in twice in the Bob Franklin also says cheeseburger is popular.
Cheeseburger. I gotta try that.
Yeah, I have never in my life heard this.
Well, yeah, I've never heard. I would assume if I said that, the only thing that would happen is the dealer would just hit the server button.
Service. Yeah,
right. And she shows up and is like, "You need something?"
Oh,
yeah,
man. All right,
I'll remember that when I go out to Cleveland.
Yeah, dude, try it out. I want a full field report. I want a trip report from everybody playing live, because I swear to God, it's a thing. Oh, Bob says he heard it. Bob says he heard it from me, so he doesn't count. But MCAT has my back. Thank you, MCAT. All right, that's fantastic. Awesome. Jay, this has been great. I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Let's do some stake study stack with Chris Jones, and then we'll close things out, closing the action with our speed round. This has been a really fun episode.
All right, Jay, this is a game we call Stake Study Stack. I've got actually some really fantastic participation in the chat here, suggesting some names. So if you've never heard this before, the way we play this, it's like a game you probably played as a kid called Kiss, Marry, Kill. But instead of that, we're doing Stake Study Stack. So I'm going to give you 3 names. You're going to pick one that you would like to stake in a cash game or tournament, one that you would like to study with, and one that you would take great pleasure in just stacking them at the table and taking all of their chips.
All right.
And the 3 names I have for you from the chat are Craig Savage, Scott, also known as DFS Brat, and Rob Gardner.
Oh man.
Good choice.
Wow. Yeah, those are actually really good choices. Stake, study, stack. Okay. So I'll go with the stake first. I'll just keep it in order. Wow, this is so funny. If I had to stake, it probably would be Scott, DFS Brat, right? I think just overall, like, he's got a lot of passion for the game. He never gives up. I give him hell, just so you guys understand. I give him hell a lot about spots. But the great part about it, he's just receptive to overall feedback, and he's great about it. So yeah, I probably would stake Scott. Study and stack. So I think they already know this. So I will take Rob on the study train any day of the week. He's helped me a ton. And again, he's somebody who, like, when we are studying or I throw something back at him, he throws it back on me and just challenges me to the next level. Like, I've learned a lot from him. I hope he's learned a lot from me. I think we've kind of done well, as a team from that space. So definitely study with Rob. And I would absolutely love to stack Craig any chance that I get. Any chance that I get. And let me tell you, I've been in spots to do it and it has not happened. So there's just spots where I just fold to Craig. Believe it or not, we end up at the table quite a bit, or at least right next to each other. Just recently we were sitting on each other. I was on his right, he was on my left, but I wasn't really worried about him because he was playing tight. So
I think I saw that. I saw that photo on Twitter, I think.
Did you see it? Yeah, he was playing pretty tight.
Awesome.
He was scared, so.
So we do have one final question from a fan of yours in the YouTube chat here. Apparently it's a short one. It's from a guy named Rob Gardner. And he says, can you ask him his thoughts on bankroll?
Oh my God, this guy. So Jim, bankroll is everything. He's never gonna live this down. This was a conversation every day in Vegas. He come pick me up from the room. I get in there and I'm like, hey Rob, like, what do you think about this? And he's like, do you want to know the answer? Like, yeah. He's like, bankroll. Like, okay. I accepted it the first time. Like we play a session, we get back in. I was like, hey, I was in this spot. And like, dude, these spots are just annoying. Like, what do we do in this? And he's like, You want to know the answer? Yeah, bankroll. I was like, okay, dude, I am so over this damn bankroll conversation. But let me tell you, like, I wake up, I say bankroll. My wife says, hey, you should call Rob because it's probably a bankroll problem. So
I love it. That's
bankroll's
awesome.
everything.
It is.
Make sure
It
that's
is. It makes a
clear.
lot of it solves a lot of other problems, doesn't it? You know,
You're not
that's
lying about that.
yeah, bankroll and game selection. They're not sexy skills, but they matter.
They do
All right.
matter.
Well, this is fantastic, Jay. We're gonna have you back another time. I know you've got
Yeah.
some exciting plans for the future with Rob and a bunch of other people, and just on your own professionally. So when the time comes, I can't wait to talk to you again. So thank you for your time with this. I'll just tell our YouTube chatters we're going to close the action with our speed round, but then as soon as that's done, we're going to say goodbye to Jay, and we'll announce some upcoming events and some home game results, and we'll give away a prize for someone who has stuck around till the end of the show to help support a local food bank. And the reason we do this is because right now in the world, it's a very difficult time for a lot of people. And just like we're trying to remove the stigma from recreational poker players, we're also kind of trying to remove the stigma from people just taking help that they need from time to time. And a lot of people these days are having a difficult time feeding their families or loved ones, or putting food on the table for their kids, or even just for themselves. And it might be people in your own neighborhood, in your own community. It might be people that you don't expect. And we all need a little help right now. And whether you vote right or left, and whatever your religion is, one thing we can all agree on is that hungry people should have some food to eat. So if you pull out your smartphone right now and Google food banks near me, you'll find some organizations that can benefit from some money from your wallet, a few hours of your volunteer time, or some non-perishable food items from your pantry. And I'd encourage you all to do that. It's a great way to make a difference in your own community, in your own neighborhood, to help out people that need it most. So all we're going to do is we're kind of raise some awareness about the fight against food insecurity tonight. And if you just type the words food bank into the YouTube chat, we will draw a winner later in the show that's going to win a fantastic prize. So you can start typing the words food bank in the YouTube chat now, and then we'll close the action here with my man Jay. All right, Jay. Normally we have a very sophisticated soundboard set up with dramatic TikTok noises, and there's like buzzers and that kind of thing, bells. We don't have any of that today because we're in the tech oasis. No, that's not the right word. The tech. What am I trying to say? The nadir. I don't know. We're in a terrible place technologically, so we're just going to do what we can. So imagine some dramatic ticking in the background as we go through our speed round. Okay.
Got it.
All right, we're going to start
I'm
with
not
an
as
easy one.
savvy as Rob, so
Trust me, savvy isn't going to come into it in this one. Just lightning fast responses, whatever twitches your brain first. All right, so let's get started with an easy one. What is your favorite poker hand?
Jacks.
Oh wow, what a baller answer that is. Okay, fantastic. If you ever learn how to play them properly, let us know. Is poker
Definitely.
a gamble or a skill game?
Skill game.
What's your biggest poker pet peeve?
Tanking.
Nice. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes.
Is Ace King a drawing hand?
No.
What's one thing you're afraid of?
Snakes.
Snakes is a good answer. They're freaking creepy. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Absolutely not.
No. All right.
Absolutely not.
What about a taco? Is a taco a sandwich?
Absolutely not.
All right. Well, we can move on. Should vacations be lazy or busy?
As lazy as they can be.
I love it. I'm the same way. What's your favorite brick and mortar poker venue?
Aria.
What about a hamburger? Is a hamburger a sandwich?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're getting somewhere. What about an open face sandwich? Is an open face sandwich a sandwich?
I would assume it's still considered a sandwich. So yeah.
I mean, it's called a sandwich, right?
Call it a sandwich. Yeah. I mean,
Who knows? Who's one poker player that you respect?
Jason Kuhn.
Nice, good answer. Yellow light coming up. Slow down or speed up?
Oh boy. when I was 20, speed up, but now slow down.
There you go. Do they even have yellow lights in Texas? I wasn't sure about that. All right, so they still do. That's great.
That nobody sees lights in Texas.
This doesn't have to be your favorite, but name one excellent musical artist.
I'm an Eminem fan for life.
Nice, yeah, good choice. What's one thing you can't live without?
My family.
And what about a calzone? Is a calzone a sandwich?
No.
Okay. Last sandwich related question. What about a Pop-Tart? Is a Pop-Tart a sandwich?
No, that's not
No.
sandwich.
All right. He knows what he likes when it comes to sandwiches. Everybody's got one. Who is your poker nemesis?
Whoa. Wow. That's a tough one. And to be honest, I honestly probably want to say that I've been in a lot of spots with this person and never, I don't think, ever won a hand. And that's actually bet on Drew.
Oh, yeah, really? There you go. All right.
I don't think I've ever won a hand with that guy. He drives me nuts.
All right. Well, that was sweet. So one last question here. Whether it's in poker or out of poker, we talk about life should be fun. Poker's a game. Let's enjoy it. What's one thing that we can all be doing to make our lives more fun, whether it's at the poker table or away from the poker table?
I think just live in the moment, just be present. I think there's just too many people that, you hear the YOLO all the time. I think like we just worry about what's around the corner way too much. I mean, planning is great. And Miko would probably beat me up if I didn't say that, but I think like, just going out, enjoy every moment, stay positive. I'm not someone who personally, I don't do the negativity. Whenever I have negativity, I work hard to remove it from being around me. But I think if you're just staying positive all the time, you just have no choice but to be happy, right? Mm-hmm. And again, nobody else is going to give you your happiness. You have to find that spot yourself. But I think a lot of it just comes from just staying positive, and again, that's on the felt, off the felt. I can tell you how many times people have walked up to me and they'll want to talk to me about hands, and the first thing I say is, "Is this a bad beat?" And if they say yes, then we don't talk. That's just the reality. And Craig could put the checkbox next to that on how many people I've shut down. But yeah, I think it really starts with the positive part about it. We are where we're supposed to be in life, and we probably could control a lot more of it if we just had a positive mindset, positive attitude. And I think that's how we stay happy in our space.
I love it, man. That's a great answer. Before we let you go, there is actually one more question. So you got to tell me, what is the VA? There's this VA crowd or this VA crew. You've got the VA Venom. What's the VA? Is it from the state of Virginia? What am I missing?
It is the state of Virginia. Well, when I moved I'm originally from Connecticut, and I moved to Virginia. I lived out there for about 15 years, and that's where I got my online life going. So yeah, when I did it, it was just VA, and don't ask me why I picked the snake, but that's the peculiar part.
That's
the ironic piece.
It works. You're pulling it off. So Alpha VA just had one more question, which is this the Niners year?
It is absolutely the Niners year.
Yeah.
We're taking it all. Alpha is like a brother from another mother, but we're taking it all. It's definitely not a Dolphins year.
Oh, burn.
That I'm sure of.
Nice. Well, enjoy the third round pick that you'll get for Brandon Ayuk when he comes over to Pittsburgh. And, you guys see what you guys can turn that into. He's got all the leverage now, it seems like.
It's coming. God bless Pittsburgh,
Jay, this was a real blast, man. Thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to see you again in person, and hopefully we'll have you back on the show sometime later this year as well. Lots to talk about. You're a great guy, a great poker player, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you guys. I definitely appreciate it. This was awesome. Thank you, Chris, John, Rob. Definitely Appreciate you guys. Definitely can't wait to get back on, man. Maybe we'll have some more scores, or I stack Craig and we can talk about it.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. That's it. And we all want that. We all want you to stack Craig. So we're all rooting
Absolutely,
for
we're
you
gonna
on
stack
that one.
Craig. It's coming.
All right. Thanks again, Jay. You have a great rest of your night, and I'm already looking forward to it. Take care, pal.
All right, y'all.
All right. So, John Somsky, let's talk about some recent home game results, and then we'll give away a fantastic prize and wrap up today's show.
Well, KekGeek65, Jacob Kiki, got his first No Limit Hold'em Championship Series. This is the series we play on the first Wednesday of every month, and we keep track of points for the entire year. And Kelly S. 1962-20, Kelly Stork has retaken the Player of the Year points race lead. She lost it for a month there, but now she has it back again.
Well, I'm impressed, but not surprised. Way to go, Kelly.
Roadstar 33 got his first nightly victory for the year. Isma got his fourth nightly victory for the year.
Still doing it.
PetBet 33, Kim Kilroy got her second nightly victory for the year. Bone Crusher 14, Marcel Dusick got his second nightly victory for the year. Graphic 16, Roger Schutte got his second nightly victory for the year.
Nice.
Stoyvin, okay, I'm gonna totally mess up this name, but it's Ryvin Standal. It's I'm guessing it's looks like it's Norwegian or something like that. It's got some little carrots over it. Anyway, first international victory. I apologize for not understanding how to pronounce your name.
I love it when the international players win the international series too. Congratulations, Stoyvin.
Yes. And then KekGeek65, Jacob Kiki got his second international victory for the year. And then just to repeat more names, Izuma got his second LPP victory for the year. So he can contact info at rec.poker for his free month at Learn Pro Poker.
Awesome. Yeah, congratulations to all our winners. Yeah, Rob.
Something that John didn't mention is that we have two players that are getting very close to the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh, really?
KekGeek65 and Isenma. I know Evil Roy is watching their progress very closely.
That's right. And Kim Kilroy is also now a member of that exciting platinum level Lifetime Achievement. Actually, I guess technically it's the silver Lifetime Achievement level.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, I got that point. So yeah, there might be some new members in the clubhouse, it sounds like.
Yeah. I will update this week. I will update the standings for that. I only do it a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
But I will get that updated so people can get excited and watch what's going on.
Nice. I'm already excited. So I can't wait to see because I want some more people. We have these parties every Saturday for everybody who's in the club. And it's been just having Kim and Dave there over at my place for cocktails every Saturday. I think we just need to inject some new blood into the group. So let's get some new members to win at least 50 home game clubs lifetime. That seems like a good way to do it. All right, well, fantastic. So Chris Jones, I see we've got a ton of folks typing the words food bank into the YouTube chat, which is great. We got a couple double typers, so I don't know if you're on top of everything here. I mean, I'm sure you're on top of everything, Chris, because you're the one and only Chris Jones. But what's your number? What do you see?
I count 7 names, eliminating the one double one.
Yeah, there's double Hubert, and then
so I started Fortune, K-Poker Wannabe, Ginger, Benny, Robert, Hubert, Cledius.
Yes, and it's Cletus, by the way. I was also tempted to throw some extra letters in there, but it is Cletus. And hey, Cletus, nice to see you again. Thanks for coming to the show. All right, and then we got Joey. We got Joey right at the bottom there.
Oh, Joey right at the bottom. That's number 8. All right.
All right, that's 8.
I will allow it. So I've got an 8-sider.
Let's see who the winner's going to be this week.
And the winner.
If I had the soundboard, we could have like a drum roll and everything here.
3.
But...
Number 3. That's going to be
Ginger. All right. Congratulations, Ginger. So I know, Ginger, you're already a RecPoker Premium member. And so you've won access to one of our fantastic training partners. So different partners have different prizes that they give away. It might be a free week, a free month, a free all access pass to some courses or something like that, send an send an email to info@rec.poker, and we'll get you all sorted out so you can claim your prize. Congratulations, and thanks for joining us here as we support the fight against food insecurity. Yeah, food bank. Hubert wants to know, is food bank one word or two words? Yes is the answer. That's correct. Rob, you unmuted there. What's on your mind before we roll
Yeah, I
on
just
out of
want
here?
to just remind everybody, today is the last day that pokercoaching.com has a big sale where you can get 70% off. So all you have to do is go to pokercoaching.com/recpokersale to take advantage of it. And today is the last day.
That's right. And if you check your email, the newsletter today should also include a link to that fantastic sale. We work with all these amazing training sites around the world, and we're privileged to not only get paywalled access to their material for our members. This is a fantastic perk of being a RecPoker Premium member. But we also get great discounts on their own training material and membership at their site. So if you're ever considering joining up with some of these other training sites, email us, info@rec.poker, and we can probably get you a discount and show you around a bit and let you know sort of where the good videos are and that kind of stuff. So yeah, thanks, Rob. Great way to draw attention to that. All right. Well, folks, I know normally we talk about some upcoming events at Running Aces, but they're in a big period of renovation right now. So I'll just shout out, thank you, Running Aces, for your support as our sponsor. And I want to thank all our premium members. And I want to encourage folks, if you're considering taking the plunge, you can always sign up for a free RecPoker account. All it takes is an email address and a smile. But the real good stuff is in the premium membership. You can get your first month for only $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. And if you ever want to join and $5 is too much, we love supporting local food banks. So if you send us a proof of donation to your local food bank of any amount, we'll credit you with a free month of RecPoker Premium here. That's right. So even if you just donate $1 to your local food bank and tell us about it, we'll make sure that you get a free month of RecPoker to say thanks. So I hope that you do. And I guess that's it. Let's roll on out of here, folks. We've got stuff to get to. So without further ado, I want to thank the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino, our fantastic guests, Jay Venom, Rob, John, and Chris, our amazing YouTube chatters. Way to go today, guys and gals. Our listeners at home, we couldn't do it without you. So we'll see you next week on the RecPoker Podcast. All right, have a great night, everybody. You can't see it, but I'm doing the drums. Still doing the drums.